Adewale had always wanted more. More money, more power, more respect. Growing up in the slums of Nigerian, Abuja, he saw how the rich and powerful lived, behind high walls and gates, with fleets of cars and entourages of armed guards. He vowed to himself that one day, he too would be one of them. By the time he turned 27, Adewale had tried every legitimate hustle in the city but had little to show for it. The dreams of a better life remained elusive. Frustration turned to desperation, and that desperation led him to the door of Baba Kadiri, a feared and powerful herbalist in the outskirts of the city. The room was dim, lit only by the flicker of candles. Strange talismans and bottles of concoctions lined the walls. Baba Kadiri sat across from Adewale, his eyes dark and calculating. "You say you want wealth," Baba Kadiri said, his voice raspy. "But are you ready for the sacrifice?" Adewale nodded without hesitation. "Anything, Baba. I'll do whatever it takes." Baba Kadiri leaned forward, his bony fingers tracing the edge of an ancient cowrie shell on the table between them. "To gain wealth, you must feed the spirits. Blood is the price, but not just any blood. The blood of women." Adewale's heart raced. "Blood? I'm not a killer, Baba." The old man's lips curled into a wicked smile. "You don't need to kill anyone. There is a simpler way. The blood of a woman during her cycle is powerful, rich in spiritual energy. All you need to do is gather used sanitary pads. They carry enough essence to please the spirits." At first, the idea repulsed Adewale. But the images of luxury and wealth flooded his mind. He imagined driving sleek cars, wearing expensive clothes, living in mansions. He swallowed his disgust. "How do I get them?" "Go to places where women dispose of such things. Public toilets, dustbins, dump sites. Collect them, bring them to me, and I will make you rich." That night, Adewale began his grim work. He dressed in dark clothes and roamed the streets of Nigerian, stopping by public toilets, trash bins, and dump sites. The first night was difficult. The thought of touching used sanitary products made his stomach churn. But as days passed, it became routine. He moved through the shadows, unseen, unnoticed. Within a week, Adewale had collected several bags full of used sanitary pads. The stench was overwhelming, but he knew it was the price he had to pay. With each bag, he grew more eager, his anticipation of wealth blinding him to the darkness of his actions. He returned to Baba Kadiri with his collection. The old man inspected the bags with satisfaction, nodding approvingly. "Very good. You've done well, Adewale. Now the final ritual." Baba Kadiri led him to a shrine behind his house. The air was thick with the scent of burning herbs, and strange symbols were drawn on the ground with white chalk. In the center of the shrine stood a large, black clay pot filled with a murky liquid. Baba Kadiri began chanting in a language Adewale didn't understand, his voice low and guttural. The herbalist took the used pads, one by one, and tossed them into the pot. The liquid bubbled and hissed as if the blood-soaked cloths were awakening something within. Adewale's heart pounded in his chest, his hands slick with sweat. Suddenly, the ground beneath them began to tremble. Adewale stumbled back, his eyes wide with fear, but Baba Kadiri remained still, his chant growing louder. From the pot, a thick, black smoke began to rise, twisting and swirling in the air above them. The smoke took form, shadows of women, their faces twisted in agony, their bodies bent and contorted. Their eyes locked onto Adewale, their hollow, blackened gazes piercing through him. "Feed the spirits," Baba Kadiri's voice boomed. "Give them what they crave, and they will give you what you desire." The shadows circled him, their cold, lifeless hands reaching out. Adewale felt their touch, cold and suffocating, as they brushed against his skin. His vision blurred, and the world around him spun. The faces of the women in the smoke became clearer, faces filled with pain, anger, and betrayal. They were women whose blood he had stolen. Just as Adewale felt he could take no more, the smoke vanished, and the ground grew still. Baba Kadiri smiled, his teeth yellowed and jagged. "It is done." Adewale felt light-headed, but Baba Kadiri handed him a small leather pouch. "This will attract wealth to you. Keep it with you at all times. The spirits are pleased. But remember, they must be fed regularly. If you stop, they will come for you." Days passed, and just as Baba Kadiri promised, Adewale's life changed. His businesses flourished, deals he had once struggled to close now came easily. Money poured in, and soon he moved from the slums to a luxury apartment in the heart of Maitama. He drove the finest cars, wore the most expensive clothes, and hosted extravagant parties that attracted the elite of Abuja. But wealth came with a cost. The spirits needed to be fed. Every month, Adewale returned to the dump sites and bins, collecting used sanitary pads to maintain his fortune. The work was easier now, the disgust long forgotten, replaced by greed. However, the more he collected, the more he noticed something disturbing. The shadows that once appeared during the rituals now followed him. At first, it was subtle, dark shapes in the corners of his eyes, faint whispers in the night. But soon, they became more aggressive. Doors in his house slammed shut on their own, mirrors cracked, and the shadows lingered longer. One night, Adewale awoke to the feeling of cold hands gripping his ankles. His eyes shot open, and there, standing at the foot of his bed, were the women. Their faces, twisted in rage, stared down at him. Blood dripped from their hollow eyes, and their mouths moved, but no sound came. He scrambled out of bed, his heart racing, but the women followed, their cold, ghostly hands reaching for him. He fled the apartment, but they were everywhere, in every reflection, every shadow. Their whispers grew louder, more insistent. "Feed us." Panicked, Adewale drove to Baba Kadiri's shrine in the dead of night. He burst into the herbalist compound, drenched in sweat. "Baba, they're coming for me. I did everything you asked, but they won't leave me alone." Baba Kadiri looked at him with a cold, indifferent gaze. "The spirits are hungry. You must give them more. I've given them everything." Baba Kadiri shook his head. "The spirits demand more than blood now. They want your soul." Before Adewale could react, the ground beneath him opened up, a black void pulling him into its depths. The shadows surrounded him, their hands dragging him down into the darkness. And then, there was silence. In the days that followed, Adewale's luxurious apartment remained vacant. His expensive cars gathered dust. No one saw him again, and his wealth, once so abundant, vanished as quickly as it had come. The residents of Nyanya spoke in hushed whispers about the strange occurrences at night, about the shadows that moved in the dark alleys. And some claimed that if you listened closely at the dump sites, you could still hear Adewale's desperate cries for help, lost in the void between worlds, forever paying the price for his greed.